Jesus! Does nobody know what I look like, for God's sakes?
Yeah.
I don't look any. I don't look any different.
That's scared.
Cool.
Thanks guys.
Thanks, guys. Just a few minutes late.
That's alright. Everything. More than hey. Good ones ahead. So again, thanks for Emma coming along.
Cheers, Ella.
But thanks, Ella, as well.
It's on camera. I'm doing my job.
Thanks for Ella for doing your job whilst listening. As you know, Emma's been in the industry for a very, very long time, and I've learned so much. So, thought, well, she's got some experience, part of knowledge to us, so that we can be awesome as well. So, all yours.
It's interesting because the people here are probably going to be the people that will. Is that on?
Yeah.
Oh, hi. Are probably going to be the people that will get, the furthest of their business, which is quite ironic, really. But anyway, so I don't really want to try and use these too much, so I'll just try and free talk a little bit. But we're going to do some practical stuff today. It's quite long. It's a lot of cord. So this is me when I was a baby, and I've basically, the music. Do you say? Yeah, it's quite louder.
I think that's downstairs. Yeah, the stairwell.
I've always wanted to help people pretty much my whole life, and I think part of it was because I was very sick when I was little, so I had open heart surgery as a baby. And probably from about the age of 4, I think I had my first medical kit, and I used to walk around and try and fix things. And then I wanted to go to med school, and then I kind of got a little bit nervous about going down to Dunedin, so I went to Vic Uni and did a degree, and then tried to apply for medical school after that, and I was like, oh, if I don't get in, what am I going to do? So you have to tick what you want to be selected for or what you want to be in line for. So I ticked the physiotherapy box just as like a backup plan, and I unfortunately didn't get into medicine, but I got into physio, so that was kind of how I began on this journey. And basically working in physio, I just found that you only had about 10 minutes with people, and I found that really frustrating. Like, you couldn't really get much traction, and you're only allowed to look at stuff quite narrow-minded. So if they'd had a shoulder injury, you could just really treat the shoulder. You weren't really allowed to be very global with anything. Like, definitely nothing to do with nutrition or well-being or stress or anything like that. And so I left and came down here in about 2006, I think, and started working here in February 2006. So it'll be 12 years starting next year. It's quite a long time. And this stuff, really, what I'm going to talk about today is basically what I had from my experience. So I'm not saying it's the only way or the way, but it's the way that worked for me. And obviously we're going to do a bit of interaction stuff, but if you guys have got some, stuff that you want to throw in there, definitely throw it in. One of the biggest things that when I left my physio job is that my parents kind of said to me, so you're going to be a PT, like, what is that? Like, what is that kind of profession? What, you're going to do it for a couple of years until you move on to something else? Or like, what is that? So do you guys believe that you're in this for life, or is this your job, or are you here filling in time?
Life is future, as long as this is the plan.
Yep. Same?
Yeah, I went at this moment, like earlier this year, I was like, I really like what I do. And I feel like I've taken a little while to really find what I do.
Yeah.
I like lots of things.
Yeah, but you plan on being here for a while? Okay, same? Ella, are you going into PT?
Not sure.
Oh, maybe. It'd be great.
PhD law degree.
Oh, damn it. You got to combine the two somehow.
That'd be ideal.
Yeah, so I guess the biggest thing is looking at it is that a lot of people, I think, look at this thing as kind of like something that they're filling in until they maybe go to like police college. Oh, I don't mean that in any way by Dean, by the way. But like it's something that you do in the meantime, or until you go to like PE school and become a PE teacher or something. So I think you either need to, in this job, you either need to commit and go, yep, I'm all in, and this is what I'm going to do, and this is going to be a business, or I'm just doing it as a part-time thing, and that's cool too. So if we're looking at it being a full-time business, I think then you need to decide whether you're going to be, are you a part-time worker or are you a full-time worker? So what are you, part-time or full-time?
Full-time.
Cool, okay. So we're going to do some kind of work with that. This isn't going to work because I'm left-handed. We're going to have to shimmy the board.
Like it. Yeah, are you lifty?
Yeah. And I have treats, by the way, so the more interactive you are, the more likely you'll get a treat.
Awesome.
Sponsored by Nourish.
We are doing the mahi.
by the way. There's a raw food bars. They've got like 5 ingredients. They're all natural flavours. They're made in Wellington. The guy who makes them used to work for a company that did work for things like Pepsi and stuff, and then he was like, I'm not really happy making things for companies that are like chemically infused, so he left and made these. Anyway, that's just as an aside. So you're going to be part-time or full-time. So this is kind of how I look at it. This is how I look at my day, and then we'll move on. I've answered all your questions, by the way, so we'll get to those. So part-time or full-time, and are you here for a real job? So you guys are going to be all full-time. So then the next question is, how much do you need to earn to either, first of all, make a living? That's number one. So how much do you need to earn to cover your bills? So who's happy if I use them for, since you asked a question, can I use you?
Yep.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so let's just easily break it down. So let's talk about, first of all, what your expenses are. So gym rent, do you pay gym rent? Yep, so roughly, it doesn't have to be exact, but 200, okay. And then house rent?
200.
All right, travel?
Probably like $50 petrol every couple of weeks, so like $25 a week.
And then parking?
Parking. I don't normally park, so maybe like around $10.
Okay, so let's say 35-ish a week?
Yeah.
Yep. Uniform, shoes, PT equipment, anything like that that's kind of related to your job that you buy, if you buy that stuff regularly or not?
Nah, not regularly.
Phone, internet?
Yeah, $50 and like 12 a week.
Perhaps at 15? Okay, and these are just business expenses. Any other things that you guys can think of that you need to run your business? Like coffees for clients? Would you do stuff like that very often? Birthday presents for clients? Christmas is coming up. Are you going to buy Christmas gifts for them? Maybe let's throw another 20.
The birthday thing.
Like birthdays? Yeah. Okay, so let's say maybe another $20 a week on something like that. And then general living and food.
Food's probably about $100 a week at least.
Should we say 150?
We go one time.
120? And then entertainment?
More reasonable. Maybe another 50.
Okay. All right, so let's kind of stop there. This is where all my years of math study are going to come in handy. Sometimes I think, like I'm counting and I stop counting and then I'll go, oh, that was 13, and they'll go, no, it was 15. And I think, you actually got a scholarship in maths. You had one job and that was to count to 15, and you fucked that up.
Shit.
1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so you need around $640 a week to break even.
Sweet.
Okay? So if you work that out first, so you go through and you do that, and then you think, what would I like to have on top of that to, if I wanted to, like, you want to buy a house one day maybe, or you want to go on some travel, or, you need a little bit of a buffer and you want to be comfortable. So what would you kind of round that up to if you wanted to be comfortable?
Comfortable.
Like what would be your kind of, your first stepping stone goal?
If I'm saving, like, small stuff to live, or like 1,000.
Okay, cool. So let's go $1,000. And that's going to make you comfortable and pretty happy, and you can kind of buy what you want, and awesome. So that's the first thing I would do, is I would go through, and this is specifically for Christmas as well, if you guys are worrying about what to do at Christmas time. So break this down and say, as a bare minimum, so like for myself, I'm probably going to take off the 25th and the 26th, and then I might work somewhere in there, but I've got savings put aside. But if you weren't, and you're thinking, oh, I want to take that, I want to only work maybe 2 days, but I need that much money and I've got no savings, those 2 days are going to be pretty big. Or you're going to have to go into debt somehow. So for the first thing for Christmas is to work out what do you need, and then how are you going to apply that to your Christmas holidays, and can you afford to take time off, or is it actually not that feasible at this point in time, and is it better to take time off later in the year? Or if you've decided now, can you make a buffer between now and Christmas to like save up for that? Okay, so then saying $1,000 a week, and let's say, I don't know how much you charge, and actually I'm going to make it $900 because that math is too hard. I'm going to say you want $900 a week. And let's say that you charged $30 for half an hour as a ballpark. We'll talk about that later as well. So you're charging $30 for a half an hour session, which means you need to do 30 half hour sessions a week to hit that amount, right? Yep. So that's basically 15 hours of work a week. So, but we've decided that you're working full time. So let's include our exercise as training, because people often say, oh, you know, like you just basically go out and do training. But to be fair, that's part of our job, it's part of our upskilling, right? So let's say we do a 60-minute training session and we have a shower, and then we need to have something to eat. I reckon if you set aside 2 hours a day, that's pretty good to cover that, pretty generous. So that brings us to 25, thank you. So, yeah. 1, 2. So that gives us a 15 hours spare in the week. So what do you guys do with that 15 hours?
Programming, emails.
Cool. So programs, email, research. All right, so this is the time, for me, this 15 spare hours that we've got is the time that most people undervalue. So you are still working at that time, and sure, you're not bringing any income in, but that is what's going to move you from the PT you are today to the PT that you are in the future, that time. So you need to book that in your diary, and you need to be pretty strict about social media. Yep. Any time that you're on social media, apart from if you're doing it for yourself, if you're doing anything that's related to listening to podcasts. I guess that's under research, really. What else do I have done? Marketing, yep. Tax. Anything to do with your banking, like going to the bank and sorting out your accounts. Having coffees with clients, not social coffees. What did you say? Marketing. Okay, what else did I have down here? Learning, marketing, reception work. Oh, by that I mean like rebooking people. So rebooking people or looking through your diary, seeing where you've got spots, trying to fill them up. Upskilling, emailing, client care, tax. So you need to set aside chunks in the day. So if we've got a 15 spare hours and let's say we're working a 5-hour week, that means 3 hours of every day you need to set aside some time to do that. And I think that is really important to do. And the beauty of our job is we can do it whenever we want. So we don't have to do 9 till 5, but it might be that you get up, like this morning I got up at 5 o'clock and I haven't actually started with clients yet. I'm not going to start till 10, but all I've done since I got up at 5 o'clock is work. So I've boxed up bars that I'm giving to my clients, I've gone for a run, I've written a seminar, I've gone and got parking coupons, I've done admin work, I've sent emails. So since 5 a.m. this morning, apart from obviously having a shower and getting dressed, which we counted as part of our working day, I've worked. And I'm going to finish at 3:30 this afternoon with my clients. So that's going to be well over, that's like a 10-hour day, okay? So that's probably one of the biggest things that I could, that I think that people need to do. So what we're going to do now is we're going to discuss a couple of things. We're going to just have like maybe a couple of minutes just to think about a couple of things that you could do either this weekend or next week that would fit into one of these categories that you haven't started yet. So if you're thinking about something like Christmas, oh, maybe I'll give you some ideas first actually. So if you're thinking about something like Christmas, for instance, maybe try and think of one promotion that you can do over the Christmas period that's going to bring people in. So what do I mean by that? So for example, really simple thing that you could do would be between the 22nd or the 23rd till when do people go back? Let's say maybe the 3rd of January. You might say, I'm going to charge $150. And I'm going to if you pay that money, you can come in as many times as you like over that time, or something. Or you might go, for the 2 weeks of Christmas, because I've got a few clients away, I'm going to do a pay for one session and get one session free because I want some more traction. I want to get my clients in more often. Okay. So let's have just a couple of minutes just to think of one or two things anywhere in the space that you're either not doing or that you think that you could do better, and then we'll talk about them. And the best answer will get a bar. Yes.
Yeah, I don't have enough coffees with my clients.
Okay, cool. Well, and are you being funny or are you being serious?
Just half and half. Actually, I started being funny and then I realized I can actually be quite a goal.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll talk about these from like how I do them. So coffees with clients. So if I've got spare time, so this is what, if I have a cancellation, that is not paid time that I can go and sit and fuck around. Faff around. That is time that client has paid for. So if they have said to you, hey, I'm not coming in because I'm caught in a meeting, but I've paid you the money, that's still their time, right? They're still paid for it. So you need to give them some value for that time. So it might be, cool, like something I would say would be like, yep, cool, no worries. I'm just going to sit down and write you a program for the weekend and I'll send it through in a minute. Okay? So they've gone, hey, she's actually gone away, and you might spend 15 minutes of that talking, or you might send it later that night, or wherever it might be, but they've paid for that time, so they are theoretically entitled to get something out of it. It might be that you go, I'm just trying to think of someone at the moment, so a client of mine, Nadia, she's a runner, she might have said to me last week, oh yeah, I'm thinking about doing a race, but I'm not really sure what to do. So for that half an hour, especially if it's something that you're already interested in yourself, because you're quite happy to go away and like work on it. So in that half an hour, I might sit down and research all of the half marathons in the last year and put them into a spreadsheet and send them through to Nadia. Hey look, I just in that half an hour when you were caught in your meeting, I did this thing for you and I'll send it through, pick a couple of races and we'll set some goals, right? Nice and easy, yeah. So the other thing that then you can do is if you then have a spare time later where you don't have anything in, there is nothing more valuable than giving a client, like meeting a client for a coffee, like literally just saying to them, you know, they've got something that they want to talk about and they're like, oh, we didn't really get time to talk about my nutrition, but I'd like to go over that or something. Let's grab a coffee next week. It's 30 minutes of your time, you know, you've got unlimited time. They don't have to pay for it. They'll probably buy the coffee anyway, to be honest. And if you like them, you probably only talk about their goal for about 15 minutes of the time anyway, and then you probably chat about yourself. So, you know, have a client coffee, fill in that time, make that out our day. So yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. Any others?
I'm not in the PT side of things at the moment, but I spend a lot of time trying to find decent social media content to repost.
Yep, so for you to like, of your own stuff?
Yeah, not so much of my own stuff, like at the moment we're doing the 6 weeks to summer.
Yep.
So we've got our own little Facebook page that
Yep.
we're doing. And just like interesting articles or interesting things to do or little tips or tricks.
Yep.
Because I'm so new.
Yeah.
It takes me a long time to find anything that's actually decent and true and
Okay, so I'm gonna counteract that and say you probably think that there's a lot of things that you look at that are not valuable, but that's because you know more than what your client knows.
right.
So if you think about it the other way, if you took your car, if you took your car to the mechanic and it had a tick, or a noise or something, and you were like, it's making this noise, I don't know what it is, and your mechanic said, oh, it's the carburetor, and to him it's probably like, I see a million of these a day, right?
Yeah.
But to you, it's so far out of what you know that you needed that expertise. So for most of our clients, like you might think it's really simple saying to them, hey, you just need to eat some more fruit and veg.
Yeah.
Sounds, to us, it's like a no-brainer. To them, like I had a client I told that to last week and she was like, oh really? And I was like, yeah, just try and put like half your plate, fruit, like vegetables or salad, like above the ground salad.
Yeah.
She came back this week, she's like, I've lost 1 kilo already. So, and to me, I'm like, how can that be such a simple thing? But you've got to remember that even if to you it feels like it's something really small, to most of your clients it's not that simple. Like they don't look at it the way that we do. They don't love exercise the way that we do. They don't really like it at all. They probably only really come in because they kind of like you, and that's probably most of the only reason. Yeah, cool. So anything that you think that you know can be value as long as it's put out in the right way. Yeah. Bye, Nikki. Any others?
I guess I'm like Jen and I'm a baby, so I'm not currently running my own business.
Yep.
But, I have a podcast that I love listening to, and it's like holistic wellbeing, nutrition, exercise, and the episode comes out weekly, and if I miss it, I get really gutted, and if I make the time to actually sit down and listen to it uninterrupted, then I always feel way more motivated, way more inspired.
Yeah. Cool. So podcasts. So since podcasts up there, I reckon if you can pick a couple of podcasts. One of the things I was actually going to say before, which I'll probably end up saying twice because it'll be down the bottom somewhere, and then I'll come back to it. Where was it? So it was basically about being authentic. Oh yeah. So think about like what kind of trainer you are. So if you look around, you know, like okay, let's pick a couple of trainers for instance. Like if you think about Matt, because you know what his niche market is, right? Like no one is going to say to him, I've got a boxing client, would you like to take them? Like it's just, you know, and same with maybe someone like Richie. So, you know, you can look around and you can go, oh, yeah, I know what that PT likes doing. I know that if I had, you know, whatever, that person would work really well with them. So think about what kind of PT you are. There's no point in doing something you're not interested in. Like things like those, you know, like Richie's did a boxing seminar. I'm like, I'm not even going to go to that because there is no way I'm going to stand there for even 10 minutes, let alone a whole day and hold pads for somebody. Like it's just not going to happen. But that's really great for him. So if you get a handle on what kind of trainer you want to be and you can be authentic about that, then I think that's probably one of the best things that you can do for your clients. And then on that, go and research some podcasts or find some things that you're really interested in listening to and upload them and listen to them when you're driving or walking, or like just walking between gyms or whatever it might be, and try and pick up really good little snippets of information and really broaden your mind. Research and study doesn't have to be sitting down with like a journal article. It can just be listening to someone else in the industry talking about what they know. So one of the ones I listen to is Fitter Radio, which is basically a triathlon endurance website thing, and another one is TSR, which is another kind of triathlon thing. So yeah, podcast, good idea. Do you make your own? Have you ever made your own? So the other thing, if anyone's brave enough, Courtney's quite good at doing this, is like vlogs or blogs. I'm not so great at it, but you don't have to do all these things, obviously. Like if you don't have spare time, like I don't really have time to do a vlog, but if you've got lots of time and you're still building your business. What else?
What do you do? The park tax and bank part, you actually go to the bank and talk to someone or...
Oh, so like if you needed to sort out an account or whatever you need to do. I mean, actually that was one of the things I was going to say about working here. So I worked here for 12 years. I've probably made over $1.2 million working here. I've got 2 houses that have tenants in them. I've got a shitload of mortgage, so there's lots of things that mean that I'm never going to just walk out of my job, but at the same time you can actually build a real business out of this if you really want to commit to it. So banking and tax, that's part of your day-to-day. You don't have to do that outside of your clients, like that's part of your working day, so just making sure that you include it. Is anyone on Xero? Do you want to use Xero for their tax? What do you do for tax?
I just use it on my clients.
Oh, do you? Oh, yeah. So Xero is probably one of the a good thing, or MYOB or something that you can get onto.
There's an accountant for that, but I thought, maybe the taxing and the things that we manage in terms of money is a little bit different when you're a PT than if you were a contractor of some others or...
And I think they're pretty much the same. So it's just income in versus less expenses minus GST.
Yeah, I know that in the module that we did, there was it was part of the tax income suggestion, so what you do with money and stuff like that. For example, not to be surprised when tax comes and suddenly shit, we have to pay all this money.
Yeah.
And we've been spending what we've been earning.
Yeah, so that's actually the other thing that we forgot to include in there, by the way, my fault. But if you're only earning $640 and you're spending $640, you don't have to worry about tax, so that's sweet. But it's not until you get on to looking at like what your profit is. So really, once you've taken away your expenses, you should look at your profit and put away about 30% of it into another account. And put it into a high interest account as well, because if you're in your first year, you're not going to pay tax until the end of your second year anyway. And so you can be making money on your money while it's just sitting there waiting for the tax man to take it. There's learn something off it.
And then that way tax goes up.
Yeah, you got spare. And chances are that it won't be anywhere near 30% what you end up having to pay. It'll be way less than that. And the crazy thing about tax is every year they want you to pay prov tax, so you've got to pay in advance, but they add on 5%. So they've assumed that this year you've made, let's say you've made $100,000, so next year they think you're going to make 5% more than that. And so if you don't have an increase in business, you've paid that, at the end of the tax year you get it back anyway. So yeah, so just try and make sure you're always setting it aside. Cool, okay, so moving along. So yeah, take home message from that was set aside client time, training time, admin time, and then use your admin time to grow your business. So we'll talk a little bit more about some ways that you can do that in a minute. All right, so the next one is probably a little bit of a rant, so hopefully I don't get too far into it, but I think there's a big difference between, for new PTs, and I'm not saying it's you guys, it's probably not because you've all turned up, but there's a massive difference between what you think you're worth and what you're worth when you very first start. So often PTs come in and go, oh yeah, well, I've done the study and I'm a PT now, and you charge $100 an hour and I want to charge that. But if you don't have any clients, you actually don't really have any right to charge that, unless for some reason you're like a miracle worker. So think about what you're worth, think about what you can charge, and then from there, get yourself busy first, and then build your price after that. So how do you get busy? So these are some of the questions that Tom asked me very nicely, sent through quite a few of them. So one of the first ones was it ideas for getting full, or hang on, I can't remember what you asked. How to get a client to invest or commit? Was that one of them?
Yeah, so like an issue that I have is like because we get leads from MCs and all of them are just like, hey, here's 2 or 3 sessions.
Yep.
So it's not like people coming, hey, I know who you are, I definitely want a PT with
Yeah.
you.
So it's not a hot lead. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you get them to commit or you get them to sign on and they're like, oh yeah, like okay, but they're not 100% invested.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like that there's like a time period of like 4 to 6 weeks where if I can get them coming in, then from that period they like recognise the value and they go sweet.
Yeah.
But if they're in and out like a little bit, it's like very hard. You just end up spending like 3, 4, 5 months with this person coming in like every couple of weeks or like
Yeah.
cancelling and then coming back later and they never like, and then because they're not getting the results because they're not coming in,
Yeah.
they're fully back, you just end up in the cycle and then eventually they leave.
Yeah. So they don't really see the value in it.
Yeah,
Okay.
like,
So.
what are your processes for just kind of like getting people in and sort of like getting them started really well and like getting them invested in the program?
Yeah. So a couple of things that you said there. First one is, you guys have a cancellation policy?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your policy?
24 hours notice if you cancel in 24 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So it's full payment under 24 hours. Yeah. Or do you try and move them?
I always say if I can reschedule, I will.
Yeah.
If we can't work out a time.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay. So you need to be, first thing is you need to be really, really strict on your cancellation policy, and that's really hard to do when you first start because part of you goes, oh God, well if I tell them they've got to pay, what if they leave after that? But if they were going to leave, they were going to leave anyway. So you need to be brave enough to go, this is my value. This is what I'm worth. I am here. You have decided to cancel that session. So you wouldn't go to the supermarket and buy a bag of apples and not eat them and then take them back in a week and go, I didn't actually eat them, so can I have a refund? So there's no difference in that. And a doctor or an osteo or physio or anyone like that, nobody else would be worried about charging that money. The scary thing is it's got to come from you rather than a receptionist. So they've got like someone that can be the receptionist that goes, sorry, we're going to have to charge that, but you've got to do it yourself. So. Yeah, so a really good thing to do is to have a line that you use that you can kind of, because they'll generally text, if they're going to be late. So have you got a line that you, like, are you ever scared about saying, oh, you owe that money, or are you okay with it? Not anymore?
No,
My client's
heard
always like,
once-
I'll still pay you.
Okay, yeah, cool, that's good.
I heard once that somebody made up a fictional character that's supposed to be the accountant.
Oh yeah.
Send emails about following up money when it's actually there.
Yeah, you get a like a website. What's up? You get a website, and then you have an admin at whatever your brand name is .com, and then you just send the email from the admin people. But it's always good to have a really good line. So one of the ones that I use, because I don't really like confrontation with stuff like that, but I learned that the hard way, like early on, just going, oh no, it's fine, don't worry about it, it's fine. It's actually not fine at all. So I'd often say something like if they go, oh, I've just realised I forgot my gym gear or something, then you just kind of go, oh, I'm really sorry to hear that. Do you want me to try and reschedule you, i.e. I might not be able to do it, or would you just be happy to pay the late cancellation? So it gives them two options. One is I'll pay it, the other one is if you can fit me in that would be great, but if you can't, I'm still going to pay it. So you never give them that out, and it kind of takes that pressure off. It's not like, oh good, well just pay my money, it's not like really confrontational. And then you can kind of go, cool, I'll get back to you with some sessions, and then half an hour later, sorry, I don't have anything available.
I just say in our
it's not the
first
problem.
agreement, like the reason why I want them to let me know, like
Yeah.
I am really busy and like the time that I can decide, like if I can fit you into the day, like,
Yeah.
so they kind of already know that like.
The expectation is already there, yeah, and that's exactly right. It's like, I'm busy too, I've got a life too, I've had to organise things, like that's cool. I might have an extra spare half an hour now, but I've already done my workout and I've already had lunch, or whatever it might be. But then like we said, if they go, yeah, that's fine, no worries, I've paid, give them some value for that time on top of it. Okay, so that question was about the investments and committing. So yeah, so as we know, that kind of frequency is key, and then seeing them for how long. So probably one of the things that I'd look at if you're wanting to try and get that frequency up is to look at what their training sessions are. So if you're getting them in for an hour, like an hour's quite long if it's someone kind of that's not really that keen on the gym or whatever. So you could even look at things like going, oh yeah, okay, well let's break that into 2 half-hour sessions. One, you're going to have better chat for 30 minutes than you will for an hour. It's quite hard to fill an hour of chat, but it's quite easy to fill half an hour. You haven't seen them for a couple of days. What have you been up to over the last couple of days? How's your dog? Whatever it might be. And then they're going to be coming in more often and they get more familiar with you. Or the second one, which I was thinking about exactly for you, Tom, and I even wrote you a little script for it, is to offer them a second session a bit cheaper. So if you're not full anyway, it doesn't really matter. So let's say Tom's training me and I'm trying to learn how to do a handstand, and Tom says something like, you know what, Emma, I reckon that we would really nail that handstand if you were coming in and working with me and always kind of use the words we rather than you, like it's like a team effort. Like I reckon if we were working together just one extra time a week, you'd get that handstand within about 4 weeks. So you know what, I've got a spare half an hour on Tuesdays at 10 o'clock, because I know that works with the way that you drop your kids off or whatever. Tuesdays at 10 o'clock, why don't I give you that session for half price for the next 4 weeks, and we'll really get that handstand nailed. Pretty easy thing to do. Your time's free anyway. You've made yourself an extra $15 for half an hour, where normally you'd be spending $5 having coffee. So really you've made 20 bucks, and that person's coming in more often, and if they find value in it, which they probably will, they're more likely to just stay with it. Like I've still got clients that are on the rate that I had when I very, very first started, that I've been training for like 12 years, and they still pay the same amount that I started charging. Like they don't even pay half of what I charge now, but I'm like, they've been with me forever. So that's, you know, that's great commitment.
So if you were to do that, so say like you said, like 4 weeks, would you offer it for that 4 weeks, and then after 4 weeks say, hey, if you want to keep going?
Yep, or you could say something like, what did I write in my script? Something along the lines of, you know, you can have that session, but if I need it for another paying client, I'll let you know, and you can either decide if you want to keep it, or we can move you out of it and try and find something else.
Yeah.
But chances are they'll stay. Yeah.
There are a few people that I say, like, first session of the week is this, but if you come in for the second one,
Yeah.
then it's
Perfect. Yeah. So that's a really good tool that you can use. You just said something that I was thinking about. Anyway, so the best time to do those things also, just as an aside, is when they're really vulnerable. And I don't mean vulnerable like about to break down and cry. I mean vulnerable like they've just accomplished something really cool with you. So like, you know, they've done something they didn't think they could do. You've done like a Cooper's test or whatever, and they exceeded their times, and they're feeling amazing, and they think you're amazing because, you know, you helped them do it, but really, I mean, they were the ones that did it. That's the time to try and upsell them. So not after they've left and the next morning when they're really tired and they're thinking the gym sounds like the worst thing in the world. Like, try and catch them when they're kind of on that high and they're feeling kind of vulnerable. So that's when you want to try and get them in for that extra session. All right, so the other thing you asked is, so I had an example for that as well, which I'll give you. So, because I do food plans as part of my thing. So someone might say, for instance, like something about their diet, and I'll say, look, I'll just flick you 1 week free of my food plan, and you can see what it's like. And then they might come in and go, oh, that was really great. Like, I found it so much easier. I didn't have to plan out my meals and blah, blah, blah. And I've lost 1 kilo already. And you kind of throw in something like, okay, oh, that's awesome. You know, I'm actually about to start a special on that. Because you just want to get them on board, really. I'm actually about to start a special on that at the beginning of December. You know, shall I email you some information about it? It's only going to be $15 or whatever. Or do you want to sign up for a month or so? So catch them when they're all kind of already on a high about it. All right, so another question that you asked was about broaching the subject of commitment. Like committing to...
Oh, like, so there are like some people, right, and they've said, this is